issues. Mr. Williams is also a member of Piliero Mazza's Cybersecurity and Data Privacy team. In this role, John works with federal contractors, particularly those who contract with the DoD, on managing cybersecurity and establishing compliant and effective safeguards. We appreciate your expertise on today's topic. Our second witness is Mr. Scott Singer, president of CyberNINES, with offices in both Wisconsin and Minnesota. Mr. Singer is a retired U.S. Navy captain, bringing over 30 years of military experience in both active duty and reserve roles, along with 26 years of industry experience. His company, CyberNINES, is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business focused on cybersecurity services and a candidate third-party assessment organization for CMMC. We appreciate you as well, Mr. Singer, for your contributions to today's discussion. Our third witness is Ms. Tina Wilson, founder and chief executive officer of T47 International, located in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Ms. Wilson is an Air Force veteran, and T47 International is an 8A veteran-owned and women-owned small business offering a wide range of professional support services to the defense community. We thank you also for sharing your story today. With that, our ranking member, Ms. Van Dyne, will introduce Mr. Dunbar.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our final witness, Mr. Michael Dunbar. Mr. Dunbar is the president of Ryzhka International, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business founded in May of 2011 and a HubZone certified firm as of February of 2014. They have lubricants and fuel oil to government, commercial, and maritime clients worldwide and proudly provides 100% American-made products. From its initial founding to today, the company has grown from 1 to 6 employees and has successfully served clients ranging from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, various shipyards, and much of the dredging community. Ryzhka International has been the proud recipient of several awards, such as the Department of Defense's Award for Support of the Guard and Reserve, and in addition to its businesses, the company's secondary mission is to provide gainful employment opportunities to qualified individuals from disadvantaged segments of society.
So what they're talking about here today is the CMMC program and how that's going to impact small businesses. So we're just restreaming it. It's you can catch it on YouTube. We're just restreaming the video for those watching.
To spend a summer working on the solid rocket boosters for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Space Shuttle. Following that summer, he attended the University of Utah, went on to have a successful career as an executive in the biotech industry, and afterwards started his own company. Mr. Dunbar will be speaking today on behalf of the HubZone Contractors National Council, which is a nonprofit trade association advocating for policies bringing opportunities to HubZone certified small businesses in the economically disadvantaged communities in which these companies are based. Mr. Dunbar, thank you for your participation today, and we look forward to hearing your testimony. I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Van Dyne. The gentlelady yields back. Sorry, Mr. Dunbar. My bio is about 1 sentence long, so I'm not accustomed to 2 pages. With that, we are going to recognize Mr. Williams for 5 minutes for your opening statement. Mr. Williams?
Good morning, Chairman Phillips and other distinguished members of the subcommittee. My name is Jonathan Williams, and I'm a partner with the law firm Piliero Mazza, which represents government contractors. Many of our clients are small businesses that work with the Department of Defense as prime contractors and subcontractors. It's an honor to participate in this hearing on DoD's Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification to share my perspective on the CMMC initiative. DoD's focus on cybersecurity has been steadily building for many years, with measures ranging from implementation of new regulations and contract clauses to the elevation of cybersecurity as the 4th pillar of DoD's acquisition planning. DoD has left no doubt about the importance it has placed on enhancing cybersecurity for the defense industrial base, and with good reason, as recent events like the pipeline shutdown demonstrate. CMMC marks a significant change in DoD's evolving approach to cybersecurity. With CMMC, contractors will no longer be allowed to use the honor system by self-certifying their cybersecurity. Instead, contractors will have to apply for certification from a third-party assessor. These so-called C3PAOs will evaluate the contractor's cybersecurity against established benchmarks and decide whether to certify the contractor in one of 5 levels. The lowest level of CMMC is level 1, which requires the fewest and most basic cybersecurity measures. The level 1 requirements are things all businesses should be doing, like spam filters and antivirus software. The cost and complexity of the requirements increases significantly at the
So what I'm doing is I'm streaming this session that the House Small Business, they're actually recording it and they're streaming live. So I'm just streaming the session.
all DoD contractors will be required to have CMMC. However, the implementation schedule has slipped a few times already and remains in flux. Approximately 2 years into the CMMC initiative, many practical questions that small businesses are asking remain unanswered. These are basic questions like, when will I need CMMC? How much will it cost? What level do I need? And how do I get it? Many small businesses will not be able to adequately prepare for CMMC until these questions are answered. For example, DoD estimates that most small businesses will only need level 1. However, that is not guaranteed. DoD agencies are more likely to require at least level 3 for many of their contracts, and prime contractors may flow down the same level to their subcontractors. Given the substantial difference in cost and technological know-how between level 1 and level 3, many small businesses will be unable to compete if more than a level 1 is required. From my discussions with the small businesses we represent, I have several suggestions for how to make the CMMC initiative more manageable for small businesses, including the SBA and DoD mentor protege programs should be utilized to ensure that mentors provide small businesses with resources and guidance to obtain CMMC. Joint ventures, a popular tool for small businesses to pursue government work, should not be required to have CMMC when the member companies are certified.
Okay.
C3 PAOs should be required to fast track CMMC applications when the applicant is a small business that is in line for award of a contract. DoD contract clauses should prohibit prime contractors from imposing a more stringent level of CMMC on a subcontractor than is necessary based on the scope of the subcontract. And finally, DoD and prime contractors should explore alternative ways to give small businesses access to sensitive information that will enable more small businesses to participate on DoD contracts with a level 1 certification. In closing, I believe the CMMC initiative appropriately aims to improve our nation's cybersecurity posture. I do not think small businesses would debate the importance of cybersecurity or that doing business with the federal government is a privilege that requires investments in compliance and infrastructure. At the same time, the worthy goals of the CMMC initiative must be calibrated to avoid creating an unnecessarily high barrier to entry for small businesses, which are the engine of our economy and critical partners with the federal government for innovation and provision of many necessary services and supplies. This concludes my testimony. Thank you again for the opportunity to appear before you today.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. A perfect 5 minutes at that. We appreciate it. Now we recognize Mr. Singer for 5 minutes.
Okay. That was interesting. I like his thoughts on that.
Thank
We
you,
can reflect
Representative
afterwards.
Phillips, Ranking Member Representative Van Dyne, and members of the subcommittee for inviting me to testify this morning. I look forward to providing information that will help ensure we have a secure defense industrial base and find cost-effective solutions to allow small business to fully comply with CMMC. My name is Scott Singer, and I'm the owner and president of CyberNINES. CyberNINES was founded only in June of 2020. However, thanks to the interim final rule released on November 30th, 2020, we have been really busy. And I have done assessments in the districts of some of the members of this subcommittee. Small businesses do not have purchasing or IT departments. They do not have compliance or regulatory departments.
True.
We need to make this easier for them. Primes, certified third-party assessors, registered provider organizations, all can assist these small businesses get compliant and reduce the complexity for them. Having a program where the primes take a strong guiding hand of their supply chain is critical to maintaining these small businesses as DoD suppliers. Of the last 33 basic assessments CyberNINES has conducted, the average compliance score was -105. Plus 110 is perfect. We have found that on average, they are about only 34% of the way toward meeting all the NIST controls. Cost models put forth by the government assume that companies are much further along on this journey, and they actually should be by this point. Assuming full compliance to NIST, the DoD has put out that this will cost $26,000 to complete the 20 additional practices, followed by an additional $29,000 to be assessed by a C3PAO. As discussed above, small businesses that we have assessed are only partway there, and we have come up with costs more to the tune of about $130,000 for these businesses to be able to be complied. Last week, I conducted a basic assessment of a small manufacturer in Minnesota. They had only 6 employees, one small manufacturing space with 3 machines, and they do excellent, innovative work. I spent a good majority of my time doing the assessment actually from the owner's house. This year, he expects to make $875K in revenue. My estimate is that if he wants to stay a DoD contractor, he will have to spend 10% of his revenue over the next 3 years alone on getting compliant.
Oh.
Small businesses have been directed to add
Can you
their
guys hear?
allowable costs to get compliant to
Does it
their
sound
indirect
good?
rates. Most don't do cost reimbursement contracting for DoD. Moreover, market factors around competition for orders will require them to compete in lower prices. Established contractors will be more likely to be able to provide a lower bid and win the order from the prime. There should be a process separate
Thank
from
you,
the
Tim.
competitive marketplace to allow small businesses to get paid for the reasonable, necessary, and allowable cyber compliance expenses.
Thanks, Philip. Thanks, New
Companies
Society.
further ahead should not be penalized and be able to recoup their past expenses too. In addition to the difficulty small businesses have funding this effort, there are bottlenecks for getting enough assessors. In doing the math, I just don't see how, and this is my opinion, we can get through enough C3POs and assessors through the process to assess 300,000 DIB companies by October 1, 2025. I saw one estimate that we would need over 8,000 assessment team members working full-time from today on to make this happen. To get more C3PAOs through the process, I'd recommend that there be a relaxation for the initial C3PAOs. Assess candidate C3PAOs to maturity level 1 or 2 now, and then require level 3 in the future. The requirement for tier 3 background investigations for assessment and support staff creates another bottleneck. I'd recommend allowing an interim clearance process for that. In conclusion, the majority of the 300,000 contractors in the DIB are small businesses. Without monetary support and clear regulatory guidance, the DoD will lose small businesses as they will look to find business in the commercial sector. A balance must be struck between risk and cost. Too much cost, we lose suppliers. Too much risk, and we hurt our national security. Thank you for allowing me to testify, and I look forward to your questions.
So what do you guys think about what he said?
Thank you, Mr. Singer. And now we recognize Ms. Wilson for 5 minutes.
Chairman Phillips, Ranking Member Van Dyne, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the invitation to testify today. I am Tina Wilson, CEO, T47 International, and I am honored to have the opportunity to provide some insight regarding the implementation of DoD CMMC initiative. As a business owner with over 260 employees located in 28 states and overseas, T47 provides a variety of staffing services from budget and finance, janitorial, inventory management, aircraft tools maintenance, to mailroom and
Where's my
non-clinical
staffing
medical and dental
people?
case
You should be
management.
looking.
The diversity of services offered puts me in a unique position to provide a different perspective regarding this subject. As CMMC standards continue to be developed and incorporated into contract agreements and modifications, it is essential that the Small Business Committee be aware of the policy impact. If the CMMC standards are not clearly communicated and monitored for fraud, the financial ramifications to the over 300,000 defense industrial base of contractors specifically to the small business community could be devastating. Based on this statement, I will cover 3 main subject areas of concern and offer recommendations. Cost to secure CMMC. As of today,
Agree.
there is no set
Anton,
cost
I
to
agree.
obtain CMMC. the CMMC accreditation body has stated that the marketplace will need to define the cost, which leaves it wide open for interpretation what this cost will be.
Very true.
Whether it's a tiered cost based on the size of the business, or a set cost regardless of the size. There will be an initial and sustained cost that will impact small businesses' ability to secure the certification. A similar certification offered by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, is standard 27,000, which is information technology and focuses on security for any kind of digital information. This certification costs between $28,000 to $35,000 to obtain and takes approximately 6 to 8 months to implement. This is a tremendous cost burden to add to a very tight budget for most small businesses. Cost of not having CMMC. While unknown as of today, what has been communicated to the entire defense industrial base is that if you don't have CMMC at the basic level, you will not be eligible for a federal contract. Many small businesses may not even be aware of this new requirement, and failure to obtain certification means ending contract work as a service provider to the DoD. Additionally, as the prime contractor, it will be our responsibility to flow down the requirements to our subcontractors. If the subcontractor does not have certification,
Morning, everyone.
we will be required to end contract agreements to remain compliant with the DoD CMMC standards. Audit imposters. I raise this subject as an awareness.
We are streaming
to
the
inform
House Small Business
subcommittee.
Committee
When the DoD
discussing
presented the
CMMC implementation
as the new
and
way
what
of
it
life
means
for all
for
businesses
small
within
businesses.
the defense industrial base in the summer of 2019, many business owners asked a lot of questions of why, who will conduct the implementation and audits, how much, when will it happen, implications, or if you do not have it, and many more questions. Before the CMMC accreditation body was formed in the latter part of 2019, audit imposters with no training and not accredited started advertising that they would certify your company as cyber
sure
compliant
did.
for thousands of dollars to
They
get
did.
a company ready. For many small businesses that are just now hearing about this standard, may in a moment of panic and fear of losing their government contract, may fall prey to an audit imposter. As I close, I recommend that the subcommittee members closely monitor this very important implementation of CMMC initiative. While I know there are so many other issues to focus on, CMMC has ramifications that reach far beyond what we can realize at this moment. It is important that, one, cost is articulated clearly to reduce price gouging and to allow the small businesses to plan. Number two, a balanced cost approach that does not reduce small business participation in the federal marketplace. Number three, DoD continues to work closely with various advocacy groups to ensure that the defense industrial base contractors know that the Office of Small Business is aware of this implication to this new initiative. And four, DoD and the Office
By the way,
of
hit
Small
the like
Business
button if
started
you
as soon
are
as
enjoying
possible to
this
put various
stream.
roadblocks in place
Make sure to hit
to
like button.
reduce the number of audit imposters. Thank you for your time in addressing this very important subject that
I don't know why her
impacts
video
thousands
keeps
of
going
small
out.
businesses that do business with the Department of Defense.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And now I recognize Mr. Dunbar for 5 minutes.
Chair Phillips, Ranking Member Van Dyne, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. My name is Michael Dunbar, and I'm the president of Ryzhka International, located in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Oh,
Ryzhka International provides lubricants, fuel oil in bulk quantities, package quantities to the federal government, commercial and maritime industries. I'm a proud service-stable, veteran-owned small business, as well as a HUBZone certified small business. I am testifying today on behalf of the HUBZone Contractors National Council, a nonprofit trade association providing information and support for companies and professionals interested in the Small Business Administration's HUBZone program. We would like to thank the committee for its commitment to small business and for advancing policies that support small businesses doing business with the federal government. In a recent hearing, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense of Industrial Policy, Jesse Salazar, said it best. The department's approach to cybersecurity must balance the need for accountability with the recognition of the challenges facing small businesses. Small businesses understand the importance of cybersecurity and the very real threats facing their companies. We're not looking for a way to opt out or ignore this problem. We want to secure our companies. According to the DoD's contracting data, 74% of the defense industrial base are small businesses. These contractors are critical to the government and are not a group that can be ignored. The federal government has long identified the need to safeguard sensitive information and understands that cybersecurity is a dynamic issue. Small businesses, however, are experts on the goods and services they provide. We do our best to focus on supplying a product, making a profit, and retaining employees. Most small businesses are not IT professionals. We're not cybersecurity specialists either.
No.
Right here is the assessment guide. This is for cybersecurity CMMC model level 3. It's full of stuff I have no idea and don't understand. I have to hire somebody to figure this out. The initial cost for me to start my business was less than $1,000. The cost to start a new government-focused business with this, $10,000, $100,000, we really don't know. Access to capital can be a very challenging issue for small businesses.
Jay Bone, what do you think
And
it
we have
costs
to
to do
use significant
CMMC?
capital now to become CMMC certified. The segments hurt most are the segments that can least afford it. The federal government already has challenges meeting those goals.
Right.
If you reduce the number of companies that qualify, you also reduce opportunity for people to start up new businesses in those sectors.
True.
The council makes the following recommendations to improve the rollout of CMMC and maintain a strong industrial base. Increase cost transparency and put guardrails on rising compliance costs for small business. One of the biggest frustrations for small business throughout the rollout has been cost transparency. Some small businesses have estimated costs in excess of $100,000 to prepare for level 3 certification. That doesn't include the assessment cost. I've heard of assessment costs already estimated at above $150,000 for a 50-person company. Establish clear communication on CMMC efforts. A lack of transparency, clear, consistent communication by the DoD in the rollout of CMMC and its implementation by the CMMC accreditation body has been concerning. The council suggests putting together a more clear, consistent delivery of information through a central government platform or website. Streamline new and existing standards for contractors. The federal government lacks unified cybersecurity standards across all agencies. The council encourages the DoD to work closely with industry, particularly small businesses, to streamline these requirements. Allowing companies to have a plan of action and milestones after a CMMC assessment would help these burdens. Create a system for oversight and equitable rollout. Many small businesses worry that they will be put at the back of the line and face massive delays as companies serve as subcontractors, and equitable rollout is important to these companies as well. In conclusion, the federal government has a long and complex history of governing cybersecurity regulations and compliance with its contractors. A streamlined approach needs to be taken for contractors to navigate all of these standards and systems successfully. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar, and to all of our witnesses for being with us today, and we appreciate your testimony on the CMMC initiative. I'll begin the hearing now by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. I'll start with Mr. Williams. I think we all understand the importance of cybersecurity and ensuring that the most vulnerable small businesses in the DIB supply chain are protected. However, it's clear that the cost of CMMC could be terribly burdensome for small businesses. So how should we be looking at this? How can we strike the right balance between enhancing cybersecurity and ensuring that small businesses can participate in DoD acquisitions?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Thank you. I think one of my top suggestions there is to try to make good on DoD's estimate that most small businesses will only need level 1. As I said in my testimony, that's not guaranteed, but if we can keep as many small businesses as possible at level 1, that will strike the right balance between ensuring that these small businesses have at least the basic cybersecurity protections in place, but will allow them to avoid, as Mr. Dunbar said, the significant additional costs when you go from a level 1 to a level 3. And I think managing the level 1 versus level 3 distinction is probably one of the most critical ways to keep the cost down for small businesses. That could be done through flow down protections, make sure that primes are not flowing down higher than level 1 if their subcontractors only need level 1. And I would like to see more flexible approaches where the small businesses don't need to take the controlled unclassified information into their own network, because that's what then causes the jump from level 1 to level 3. Let's look at ways that either the DoD in their own systems or the prime contractors in their own systems can maintain this information. And let's maybe be more creative and flexible in how we allow small businesses to participate on those programs without having to take that information into their network and then cause them to have to go up to a level 3.
I appreciate that. And are there any funding streams of which you're aware that can help small businesses with the costs of CMMC? And if there's anything that Congress, DoD, or even SBA could do to help in that regard, no matter how significant the expenses might be?
I'm not aware of specifically targeted funding stream at CMMC. I think it'd be a fantastic idea if there was the wherewithal for a grant program for small businesses to help them on their way with the upfront investment program investments needed for CMMC. The larger small businesses will be able to make that investment and get it on the back end when they're paid on their contracts with the government. But for the smaller firms, even the several $1,000s of the
we can't put that money
for a level 1 might be too difficult to make upfront. And I think the existing mentor project programs, as I mentioned, those are fantastic programs. They work very well in many respects at the SBA and DoD for small businesses and large businesses. There are a lot of incentives that large business mentors get from participating in those programs. We could be clearer, more well-defined, that mentors, when they're permitted to access those programs, have to ensure that one of the things they're doing for their proteges is to provide financial resources and technical assistance to ensure their proteges are ready for CMMC.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wilson, I'd love to hear from you about your experience. How were you made aware of CMMC? How difficult is it for you and T47 to understand? And do you envision having to engage a consultant or a specialist to help you navigate it?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I learned about CMMC when attending a DISA Industry Day in 2019 up in Baltimore. I understand completely how it works, and from a broader perspective of protecting the supply chain, intelligence assets, IT infrastructure, and things that matter to protecting our nation. And for T47, the critical part is we have to secure a specialist, which I've already engaged, because it's very complex. And for someone that's non-IT, like myself, I'm a business owner. I know how to go get contracts and build a company, but to build an IT infrastructure that impacts a lot of employees and be able to maintain it and go into other security areas, it's a challenge. So to actually have a expert to help us is going to be critical, and I've engaged in that process already.
Thank you very much. My time has expired, and now I recognize the ranking member, Ms. Van Dyne, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dunbar, okay, hold that up one more time. You need 2 hands. I completely understand your frustration right now. Do you believe that the CMCC duplicates any of the multiple standards and cybersecurity programs that currently exist? Do you find that there's a bunch of stuff that's already existing right now that's in that book that you're going to have to do more of? And is there a way to further streamline these disparate processes?
Thank you very much for the question here. This, from what I understand, and I'm not a technical expert, so I will answer from a layman's perspective, CMMC added, I believe, 20 additional items to NIST 800-171, which is currently the law of the land and what exists today. So what is being projected to be our new standard is built on an existing standard. And part of me questions why we had to go so much further. The reasoning behind putting CMMC in place, part of it was because we were doing self-assessments before for companies instead of having a third-party assessment. Why could they not institute some sort of third-party assessment to an existing standard? Why create a whole new standard that people have to learn and understand to begin with? And I didn't have to deal with the first standard because most of my business is what they call COTS, which is commercial off-the-shelf products. However, fuel recently, as we just saw with Colonial Pipeline, has become a very critical item. Is supplying fuel by truck, by whatever method, all of a sudden going to become a CMMC level 4? Like the infrastructure piece of it might potentially need to be? That's going to impact a significant number of small businesses like mine. So by adding these additional items, we ask our question as to why and how do we streamline this? I have in place security right now that covers 77 of the NIST items, covers 77 of the CMMC items, but covers 90% of the risk. So is that additional cost benefit, and we're talking $80,000 to $100,000 of additional cost to get that other 10% realistic for small business?
I'm concerned that the critical information about CMMC is being conveyed in a conflicting and
So you're listening to the House
potentially
Small Business
informal
Committee
manner.
discussing
What are
CMMC
small businesses
and the
currently going to
impacts on
seek
small
information
businesses.
or guidance on CMMC? Where are you going to find more information? And then what would be the ideal method or platform of communication?
If you
from
enjoy
the
this
DoD to
video,
the
make sure to give us a
contracting
like,
community? How
please.
can we make it easier?
The main place that we've been receiving information tends to be LinkedIn. We have had members of DoD communicating directly through LinkedIn, members of the CMMC board communicating through LinkedIn. That tends to be the largest location or community of folks getting information from on this program. We get very little from DoD directly. They've had some town halls that they call it.
Right,
You don't really get much notice, if any.
right.
Just the other day was mentioned a project, Spectrum, I believe it's called, that I'd never heard of, that was put in place, it looks like sometime in 2020. Most small businesses are unaware of this as well, and this is supposed to help us somehow. It's a DoD program, but we're not even aware of it.
So being sent to a website's probably not going to help you.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's just, it's just, there's no consistent method or message coming out from DoD on where to get things. Even if you go to the CMMC AB frequently asked questions page, sometimes they say, oh, that's a DoD responsibility. And that's been a lot of the kickback is pointing
I've
fingers
tried getting them to
between
come on my
the
show,
CMMC
and they
AB
refuse to come
and
on my
DoD
show.
saying, well, they're
So
responsible for X, they're responsible for Y.
we've got the largest
And-
platform
Specifically
online.
for the small business community, I didn't mean to cut you off if you had anything else to add.
No, ma'am.
Specifically for the small business community, and I hate to add another agency in here, but do you see a role that SBA could possibly play in helping to be an intermediary?
They don't want to come on the
between-
show either. They don't want to
between
come
the
on
three?
other than
I
the
definitely-
other
there's-
programs.
Should be a role for the SBA in here. I don't feel that the SBA has been able to be involved. I feel that the DoD has sidelined them, at least in my opinion, in the same manner that I think a lot of small businesses have been ignored when we've raised questions or raised issues.
Right,
And
absolutely.
it's basically been kept to a very small group of people that are running all of this, and then we get told later on, here's what's happening.
All right, Thank you
Agreed.
very much. I yield back.
All right, the gentlelady's
Very well
time has
said.
expired, and now I recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Evans, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask a question to Ms. Wilson. Small businesses are frequently targeted by cyber criminals. What would the ideal situation be for you in terms of the Department of Defense ensuring that cybersecurity taking care of its defense small business base?
Thank you so much, sir. I think one simple solution to offer, and it could be just reasonable cost and possibly free, is to offer up maybe cyber tools that are already approved by DoD to the small business community as a first line of defense.
I like her. She's smart.
It could be offered up from the CMMC level 1 up to possibly level 2. And then at least this way, DoD has a level of comfort to say, okay, at least we have some tool out there. Now it's up to the marketplace, the small business community to go out and secure additional certification if necessary, to ensure that, you know, at least we're taken care of and that that shows an effort that the DoD cares. That's a critical part. We just need to know that we're in it to help you, but you got to be in it to help us as well.
I'd like to follow up. For many small business, cybersecurity certification is just one of the many requirements and certification they need to comply with as part of being a defense contractor. Can you mention
I
just
agree, Joey.
few of the other certifications?
Canty.
you
Yeah, I'm
have
glad
to
you're enjoying
comply
it.
with? And how does
Make sure to hit the like button,
cybersecurity
guys, please.
certification
Girls, ladies.
compare to other
We're trying to get people the information, the tools, and the resources that you need to make decisions.
Sure, sir. So for T47, we've actually invested in securing the ISO certifications, 3 certifications. We're doing that currently. That's a very costly investment. We also have the SBA 8A certification that is due annually. And because of our size now, we now have to incur additional costs for audits that are necessary to keep the certification. We have the woman-owned small business certification. And then as a clear facility, we have the Defense Counterintelligence Security certifications as well to keep our clearance. So in comparison to all those other certifications was just a small list for us. To be perfectly clear and frank with you, the CMMC has been the most challenging because it's just the lack of not understanding exactly what's needed. And it's a cost that's involved. There is no really transparent cost set aside for like small business, mid or large. And I know this is a new initiative because anytime you're rolling out a new policy, there's always going to be bumps in the road. But at the same token, there needs to be more of a clear communication from DoD and those that are managing this process of what it's going to take for small businesses or all businesses to have the certifications necessary. And that's going to take a concerted effort for everyone to understand. CMMC, to be quite honest with you, it's new, but it's a challenge. And it has to be worked out pretty quick because you're going to start rolling these things out into contracts, and the fear could be real once it starts happening.
Oh, the fear is real.
I thank you.
That
and
could
I
be. The
yield
fear
back
is
the
real.
balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back, and now I recognize the ranking member on the Subcommittee for Underserved Agricultural and Rural Business Development, Mr. Hagedorn of Minnesota, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. Ranking Member Van Dyne, it's good to be with you today. Thanks to the witnesses. This seems to be one of these issues, and even the big agencies of the federal government want to impose a lot of things on small businesses that they themselves don't handle appropriately.
Very well said,
It
sir.
doesn't take you don't have to think too long and hard to realize that the DoD has lost technology and outright given it away, in some cases, our federal government, to China. Economic technology, of course, gets lost a lot by big companies. OPM went and took 25 million records, federal employees. I was one of those folks that they stole from during the Obama administration, and now they come along and say, well, if you want to do business with us, you have to go through a bunch of gyrations, spend a bunch of money, and some of it seems it could be reasonable. You look at recently, we had some issues with, obviously, and these areas are very important. I mean, we had a big meat packing company that does 25% of the beef in the United States, have a pork manufacturing plant in Worthington, Minnesota, where I represent. They went down, and you see how critical things can be. We can lose our food supply and everything else in the blink of an eye. But, Mr. Dunbar, I think, wouldn't it make more sense if the federal government just imposed some reasonable standard and said, if you want to do business with us, you've got to try to do everything possible in order to make sure there's security here and that you protect these digital ways that you do business. And I mean, rather than have you go through all these hoops, I mean, what you say it could cost up to $100,000, it doesn't seem reasonable to me.
Thank you, sir, for the question. Yes, I agree. I think the key word there is the definition of reasonable. I believe the DoD believes that their numbers and that the requirements are reasonable. Small businesses would probably disagree with that. When you have a company like mine of 6 people has to spend $100,000 to comply with something. There are, as I mentioned, standards out there currently that are being used every day. Right now, a small business, you walk into a small business and we hear advertisements on TV and such saying, we've got your security, have your internet service through us, we got you covered. Well, that's what a small business thinks. Okay, they got our security for us, no problem. Then we see something like this and say, well, we really don't have security, do we? We need something in between those two items. My security that I currently have in place is, as I mentioned, covers 77 of the items that are being requested and 90% of the problems. And it's costing me about $15,000 a year to $20,000 a year to do that. You can get away with a little bit less, but I have insurance and other things on it that get tossed into there to cover in case I get hacked. So there are standards out there that could cover reasonably well what we're all looking for and meet a level, I think, that would provide security for anything but the greatest items out there. As was mentioned by Mr. Williams, having access into a system provided for us for companies that don't need to take something or machine it, but actually just need that data and that information can go into the government system, sort of like the National Guard does. They have their little walled garden, we call it. A member of the National Guard can go in, get their CUI information in there, go out via their VPN, and now they have all their information that they need, and it's been in a secure environment.
So I worked a little bit in the Treasury Department, and I've seen bureaucracies in action, and usually the bureaucrats come up with lots of ideas in order to make sure that if something goes wrong, they can, as you say, point the finger at somebody else. And I see a lot of that here. I see a lot of expense being pushed along to you, and just because if something goes wrong, they don't want to be blamed for it. And I think it's kind of telling when government comes up with these ideas. Here, we're going to put this regulation on you. We're going to make you do all these types of things, and it's going to cost some money. So, well, now let's go find funding streams in order to help you pay for that. I mean, we see this all day long. I think a reasonable standard would make sense. Most businesses, even the big ones, have issues here, and they all need to do better in compliance. And I think that people can figure that out. So, thanks very much, by the way, for your service to the country, and you had a very impressive resume. It took our ranking member an extra shot at it just to get it out. So, thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
I agree with you, Joey.
The gentleman yields back, and now I recognize the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Economic Growth, Tax, and Capital Access, Mr. Meuser, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the ranking member very much for holding this hearing. Thank you to the witnesses as well. So, there are reports. We all know that cybersecurity is
True.
clearly
Nicole.
an issue. Reports are that I've reviewed that 6% of U.S. military and aerospace contractors reported data breaches between 2016 and 2018.
This mic is slow.
Ransomware attacks are up over 100% in 2020. All industries, by the way. That's for all industries. So it's a concern. DoD, however, seems to have created these CMMC mandates that are a major concern to all small businesses and contractors, certainly sitting here and in my district. And in fact, it seems that some of the focus on compliance with these mandates is even truncating your actual ability to focus on actual cybersecurity. And as a being in business for a lot of years, I understand that. These mandates coming from Washington, in this case the Department of Defense, don't take what your business is about fully into consideration. How could they possibly, right? I mean, it's a one size fits all approach. So I'm definitely not happy to hear that Department of Defense is also not offering forums to have this
Come on,
discussion.
GovCon Giants.
Right?
Tell them to come on here and
Perhaps,
stream
in
on
a
our
hearing,
channel, the
maybe
forum.
we can do that.
That's what DoD should
or,
do.
Create access.
We'll
so
stream
they
them
better understand your
for a fee.
concerns. And again, I have DoD suppliers in my district that have already, just in the last couple of years, spent tens of thousands of dollars living up to these requirements and trying to achieve them. And meanwhile, they don't necessarily even know what level they're at, right? And they're very concerned, even their mid-level suppliers, of those who are supplying them.
Exactly,
Being able to
Nicole.
maintain those costs. And
Let
everything
them
that
have
we're
us
discussing and
feed,
sharing here.
pay us, and we'll do all the
Mr.
feeds.
Dunbar, I'll just ask you this. Level one, we're talking about level one here. Do we have the Department of Defense's feedback on if level one is satisfactory and for how long it will be? Because I know they are trying to roll into this with in a managed way over the next several years, right? So what do they say about you and suppliers that you know about?
I have a
maintaining
plan how they could roll this thing out. Trust me.
Well, I think you reached part of the problem, is we're not really hearing a lot. We've got some estimated dollars and some numbers out there tossed around to level one, and yet how long is it supposed to last? Any of the real detail on it? We don't get a lot of that. Is as you mentioned, the technology, is that going to keep up, or are we going to keep chasing technology as we go along, and therefore chasing more regulations and more rules that we have to get reassessed for along the way, which are just going to continue to increase costs?
Speaking of cost, what's the cost difference, would you estimate, from level one, which many are saying here they believe would secure your systems and your companies, versus, say, level three? Is it even, how can you put a number on that?
Easily 10 to 20-fold.
Wow, okay. And how much more secure would it be from level one to level three?
10%.
I don't really know specifically from a level one to level three how much more secure it would be. I know from where I am currently and what I'm paying for the setup I have, which is a pretty secure setup according to the person who handles my security is actually a past director at DCISE. And so for the Department of Defense. And so he is the one who set mine up, and he's the one who said that we had 77 of the 120 controls and have solved 90 to 95% of the issues. So he believes for very small companies that you could be looking at, 5 to 10,000 a year maybe for your costs, instead of, having to reach up to this level, and that same company could be at $100,000+ a year.
Well, I think we can conclude that these measures are overly harsh, and we do need to create a forum to have this discussion with DoD so we can work this out. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back, and that completes our first round of questioning. So therefore, I'll recognize myself for another 5 minutes. Mr. Singer, while companies like yours are in the pipeline to become accredited C3 PAOs, there's a long ways to go until we have a substantial amount of them. So how likely is full implementation of CMMC by 2026 if there is a lack of assessors?
Jay Bone, that's you. That's what they're talking about. The CP30,
Mr. Singer?
C3 PAOs.
Forgot to unmute.
Oh.
Thanks for the question, sir. I think it's very difficult to get there with the current progress we're making. We have 100 provisional assessors at this time, and we have 2 C3 PAOs already through the process from doing a DoD assessment. And by the way, the third-party assessors are going through that level 3 assessment. So we have to meet the 130 different practices. So I think it's very difficult. Timeline is very stretched. As I had said in my testimony, I think we need more than 8,000 assessment team members to even make this happen, and that would be starting from today. So the math just doesn't work. I believe that there does need to be some flexibility and how we're rolling this out for the third-party assessors. And we need to have some, if we're going to try and meet that deadline, there needs to be quite a bit more flexibility by the DoD in trying to ramp this up and move this out. I also feel pretty strongly that not everybody, as we've talked about before, needs to be at level 3. If you're a part component maker, a small business, and you're doing, special processes like coatings, painting, and a prime flows down the drawing to you and tells you, put the label plate here on this, equipment, all of a sudden you've now had to hit level 3. So there's some work here that needs to be done on understanding the risk truly to the supply chain. And maybe a single part maker of a bracket doesn't need to be level 3, but somebody that's making sub-assemblies and more complex parts does need to be. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And Mr. Williams, while CMMC is a DoD initiative, we're beginning to see it in other solicitations, particularly for government-wide contracts like GSA's 8A STARS 3 contract. So how concerned should small businesses be of the CMMC initiative being adopted by civilian agencies and becoming a de facto baseline for doing business with the federal government?
Extremely
Yeah, I think
concerned.
that's certainly a possibility. The rollout with CMMC at DoD has experienced challenges, as we've been covering in today's hearing, and I think remains to be seen if they'll hit the target of 2026, as Mr. Singer just said. I would view what's happening at DoD as the trial balloon, and if it went well at DoD, which certainly is an open question at this point, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's expanded beyond DoD to all of government.
All right, thank you, sir. And with that, I will now yield to Ms. Van Dyne for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singer, I appreciate your testimony here today. I just have a couple of questions. What is the penalty or the outcome for a small business that can't comply with the requirements?
No contracts.
Today, the penalty is that you're out of doing business with the DoD, period.
Okay. I'm seeing Mr. Dunbar shake his head as well. So I'm going to ask actually the whole panel, can you point to one or two concrete things that we can do to make understanding these flow down requirements easier for small business? Mr. Hagedorn had a great point. Well, yeah, we could just define reasonable and move forward from there. Can we be a little bit more specific on what you would need? And Mr. Singer, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure, thanks for the question. I think the primes really need to step up and play a bigger role here. They have the resources and the teams, and they've done a lot of the background work on understanding what's required. And instead of just sending out a reps inserts or a letter to a small business saying you need to post a score in the supplier performance risk system, I think there needs to be more support and help for them and more of a guiding kind of process program that they implement for their whole supply chain to help them get compliant.
Ms. Wilson, do you have anything to add?
Yes, ma'am. To ensure that everyone is they have the same information. What we have right now is pockets of information going to various individuals. Like I just heard from Mr. Dunbar said most of the information is being flowed through LinkedIn. Some companies have LinkedIn and some companies do not. There needs to be concerted effort of communicating what the standards will be, what the costs will be across all industry, especially and filter down to the small business. It may be a regional approach to be able to help. It may be just understanding that CMMC is here to stay, take away the fear, but communicate clearly what it really means to have this certification.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Williams?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to make 2 points. First, to address the comment about flow down. The interim DFARS clause for CMMC, which was issued late last year, directs prime contractors to flow down the CMMC level that is appropriate for the information that's being flowed down to the subcontractor. That gives a lot of discretion to the prime contractor to decide what's appropriate. I would like to see the final DFARS clause for CMMC prohibit prime contractors from flowing down a higher level than is absolutely necessary based on the information that's being provided to the subcontractor. And the second point I'd like to make about the information that's being disseminated to the small business community, my experience has been that there have been town halls, as Mr. Dunbar mentioned, and I get the LinkedIn messages as well. There are other ways that information is being pushed out, but I think the challenge is that messaging is blunted by the fact that we still have no answers for many of the critical questions. So rather than focusing on creating more forums for disseminating information, I think we need to focus on providing real hard information about how much this is going to cost and when are small businesses going to need it. What level are they going to need? Until we can answer those basic questions, I think the forums are going to be largely lost on the small business community.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Knowing how much
Williams.
it
Mr.
costs
Dunbar, did you
is
have anything to
important
add?
to everyone.
Yes,
But
one of the items with
knowing how the
small
government
business
works,
is
it's
a lot of
no
small
different than the
businesses
women's
work from,
certification.
I'll say, remote locations. You may have an office where you have people working from home, several people at their various homes. One of the big items that was brought up recently by one of the board members for the CMMC was that we'll be subject to home inspections in order to pass CMMC. So now you have people doing home inspections in your own private homes. The risks beyond that are just, uncalculable. Another item to
Never thought
me
about that one.
really
That's kind of
piqued
a
my interest there
curveball.
was our ability to protect ourselves during an assessment. Right now, an answer on the board FAQ site basically states that an RP that helped us go ahead and put together our plan is not to be there to defend our plan. So if we get, fail it, we're supposed to know this book again. We don't have an expert to know it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back, and now I recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Evans, for 5 minutes.
all
Thank
people
you, Mr.
watching, do you
Chairman.
think that they're really taking this in? Because they're moving so
Mr.
fast.
Dunbar,
How can
what would
how can the
what would
committee
be
be
your
processing this information so
recommendation for those
quickly?
businesses
What do you guys
that are
think?
just learning about the initiative? I'd like to ask all the panel that question. Let's start off with you, Mr. Dunbar.
I honestly don't know that I have an answer for that. Because trying to find the information, it's not been clear enough to everybody where to get it. If I'm getting it from LinkedIn, I mean, I first heard about it at a Army Corps Small Business Conference in 2019. Otherwise, I may not even know about it today.
Does any other panel, any comments or thoughts on that? Any of the panelists?
A home
Sure,
site
sure.
visit
I'd
sounds like a nightmare.
Like to make a comment. You know, I think one of the important things is for companies to find reputable businesses to help support them through this process.
Everybody says that.
And unfortunately, I think there's too much variation in the
What's a
help that
reputable
they're
business
getting,
look
as,
like?
Ms. Wilson spoke of earlier
Right.
also.
The
I
imposters.
think also that, especially now, I think a lot of the level 3 companies are aware of this coming down, especially small manufacturers are just now starting to really understand this because the letters
I
are
agree
coming
too.
out from the
like
primes. But I think a
It's too
big
much
gap
information
is the
to-
people that are going to have to
somebody
meet
must be
level
sitting back
1,
taking notes.
and they don't know it right now.
There's no way.
And I think that's
Uh-oh, we lost his mic. Uh-oh. My sound. What happened to the sound? The sound dropped. Uh-oh, whoever's streaming this. Sound dropped. And you can't communicate in the chat. They disabled the chat. So I'm not sure what happened. We see them talking. We can't hear them. So while we're waiting for the sound to come back on, I guess we can chat a little bit until this comes back on. No, yeah, we know they're recorded. I was just it is an actual hearing that's happening right now, Nicole. So yeah, I'm sure it's recorded. But more importantly, are they going to go back and write it and it's the sound drop because if you see YouTube, it stopped doing the actual transcription on the screen. So that's how you know that there's a problem with whoever's streaming this out. They're the ones that made a mistake. So I wish we had a number we could call them up and be like, hey, you stopped the stream. So interesting topic here. I think this is really important that we understand. I know we have people in the group. They've been hacked, right? Consider all the stuff that we were talking about today, right? And then to say they've been hacked. So yeah, this is actually, it's an interesting topic that is happening right now. And unfortunately, I don't think there is an easy answer. And in considering what the government has done in the past with even changing over the women-owned small business program, and that even having that being done by third-party persons, and then having people who were once registered to have to re-register or recertify for that. And then, like Joey mentioned before, which is they're not even keeping companies accountable for failing to meet their subcontracting requirements. So, I think that it's more do what I say, not as I do, because like Nicole mentioned, the gentleman, I forgot his name, Mr. Hans or something like that, says, even within government, they're not up to speed and they're not fully compliant, but they're requiring us to do so. And again, we're not here to knock anyone's, but we are here to try and learn and understand. And I would love to see some of us one day soon up there giving testimony and speaking our 2 cents on the matter. So I think that this is a great conversation to have. And, listen, share your thoughts, put comments, questions, concerns in the notes. Yeah, I don't know what that home site visit looks like, but oof, I can't imagine. Like you said, we for many, many, many years ran our business out of our homes. And we did have to have the goal when we had the hub zone. They had to come in and check the house for hub zone. But that was a different type of, they weren't doing an inspection. They were just making sure that, you actually used the business as an office, the home as an office, and that you had someone there, not just put down the address. So I have had to do home site visit for hub zone. And 8A, when they came out, they would come out to the place of business for our annual reviews with 8A, and that also was a home visit. So, so I have had experience with that, but when it comes to cyber and the third-party assessor and that kind of stuff, that seems a little bit like, it could go the wrong way really fast. What else? Yeah, you're right. You're mostly hearing it through groups, connections, roundtables. And so that's inconsistent. And I think that for most of us out here, if you are new and you're learning, as Ms. Wilson stated, that you have all of these imposters, just like people who promise to get you on GSA schedule, just like people who promise to get you the 8A. You have all these imposters out here, and you don't really know who to trust. And yeah, someone mentioned earlier in the chat, Jay Bone said that you find a trusted company, that's C3PAO badge, but like you said, there's 9 in the country. So what good does that do us? Well, I don't think that they know that the audio is off. and that stinks because I thought I was actually enjoying the conversation, and I was hoping that we could hear the whole thing throughout. So it doesn't look like that's the case, unfortunately. I'm going to hang around for a little bit and see. What do you think? I actually, I have intentions of, when I find out about these types of things, I'd like to stream it live and then be able to provide, commentary, and we can discuss it because it's important. I think this is important. This affects us. Today you may be saying to yourself, well, I have, 1 or 2 employees, but then tomorrow, right, you've got 10, 15 people. So, and I know how quickly those things happen. Once you put yourself out there and you get this train rolling, it happens really, really fast. So I think that whatever you do today is going to impact you in the future. And so knowing how to set that up, that's going to be great. So we're waiting for the sound to come back on this stream. And so as we wait for the sound to come back on, we're going to continue to have more conversation. Nicole, how's it been? Yes, things are going well. Yes, 6 people need to hit the like button, TY. Things are going well over here on our end. We are, staying diligent and doing our part, trying to, feed the community. And we've been working on some things in the background that you're going to see. We actually, it's funny that you asked, Nicole. Maria and I were working yesterday. We're going to be actually sending out, it's going to go out via email. And we're going to be sending out actually a milestone form to everyone on our email list to fill out. And we'd love it for all of you to help us fill out milestone forms because what we want to do is, now that we are a nonprofit organization, we want to start chasing down some of this dollars for training, for educating, for helping small businesses. We'd like to do more one-on-one work. And if we can get the government to subsidize and pay for that on your behalf, then that's what we're going to try and do. So you're going to see a lot more of this happening. You're going to see us a lot more involved in this process. And I've got some events to go to. And so, it looks like they adjourned. So, well, I guess they adjourned the event. So we'll go to the full screen now. And for those watching, we were over here watching the Committee on Small Business meeting. And so it's been adjourned now. And so we'll stay on for a couple more minutes and talk about, like I said, we are working on a milestone form that we're going to be sending out. We're going to try and get it out Friday's email. So look for it. Sometimes because we have such a large list, sometimes it may end up in your spam folder, junk folder. But if you could fill that out and we've helped you in some kind of way, please share that, write that. We're looking, if we can get hundreds of responses, even though we have tens of thousands of subscribers, I'm expecting hundreds of responses. But if we can get hundreds of responses, we can put that together and submit to request for funding to help support what we're trying to do, and then also enhance our offerings, because we've got big plans for everyone out there. Nicole's on here, and if you have not had a chance to watch the interview with Maria and Nicole, definitely take a look at that interview. It's phenomenal, and Nicole, she's thousands of dollars away from hitting the $5 million revenue mark. So we're going to bump our little 4 to 5. So right now, let me see, where's it at? Boom, 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 boom. So we're at 4.
Cardano. I bought
Cardano
ADA this morning.
So
twice.
We're gonna hit that
during
5.
the course member live stream this morning.
So that's going to happen. And so we're very excited for that.
You can.
And so again, we need your help to help us help you. So by filling out the forms, letting us know in some kind of ways in which we had an impact on your business, then we're going to take that information, We're going to submit it in a package, and we're going to be meeting with government folks about how we can get funding, because it really is, a tragedy that the government spends so much money on training and assistance for small businesses, but we're in a decade decline in terms of the numbers. 24,000 less companies doing work with DoD, 13,000 fewer firms doing work with the VA hospital, and then I think it's 7,000 or 8,000 with Department of Interior, respectively. So with all of this money being thrown at training, the existing companies, entities, organizations that have been doing this, to me, they haven't really been making enough of an impact, because the numbers, the business decline is going, the numbers are going the opposite direction. So spending is going up, funding is going up, and then the number of businesses successfully winning is going down. And so that's a tragedy, and we want to reverse that trend. So again, we're going to try and do our part. We've got a whole bunch of people. Like I said, I have actually 16 instructors and trainers behind me that I've already recruited to come on and help us. So now we're looking to get funding from the government, looking to get funding from foundations to help support our efforts, so we can build all of you up out there and empower you and give you the tools needed to be successful. And I want to be literally standing there holding arm by arm with everyone, holding you guys as we walk down towards getting what's rightfully our piece of the pie. So again, look for that. We're working on that as well, and we will have that out hopefully by this Friday's email. If not, we'll definitely have it out by next week to folks out there. And then for all of those that are in any of our training programs, we're doing an award sheet that we're going to be capturing any awards you have. So again, just want to share that. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I'm going to sign off. I got some work to do. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for coming on. And we hope in some way this is helpful. And, we want to keep the conversation going. We want to keep providing you education to the community so that you could be abreast as to the changes as they happen and what's the latest and greatest. And also so that if you see something, you can also impact change. And so that's really the biggest part of this all, is that we want to be able to have an impact on the change. I was able to successfully stop the government from awarding a $200+ million contract. And so I know that it can be done. I wrote letters to the right people. I explained the issues. And so we do have a voice, believe it or not. We have a voice, and your impact is a lot greater than probably what you believe it can be. So collectively, we can do a lot of things. We can move mountains. And so I want to help lead in that effort. And I would love it if everyone could stand behind and support this, because as you see, we've been consistently delivering content for the last 4 years now, right? With hundreds of podcasts, hundreds of videos, and tens of thousands of hours of content free, right? So we just want to be able to continue to do that, and imagine if we had some funding behind us, all of the magical things that we could do. So very excited to chat with everyone today. Thanks for coming on and watching this stream. Follow us on all social media platforms. LinkedIn is great. If you are on LinkedIn, give me a rating, right? Hey, give me a rating. Rate me as an expert in some field. So thanks, guys. Enjoy.